we have to talk about the Winx Club reboot. I first heard talk of a Winx Club live-action reboot back in 2019, and based off of what I'd seen of other recent edgy reboots of my favorite childhood shows, I'll be honest and say I didn't have high hopes. Oftentimes, these new adaptations lose the heart of what made the original story so interesting and so beloved, in favor of overly dramatic storylines with attractive leads, and I worry that the Winx reboot is going that same direction. While Fate the Winx Saga hasn't come out yet, I definitely have some early thoughts on it based off of what I've seen in the newly released teaser trailer, and this initial reaction is what I'm going to be talking about today. Let's get into it. When the reboot was first announced by Netflix last year, Fate the Winx Saga was described as a, quote, coming-of-age journey of 5 fairies attending Althea, a magical boarding school in the other world where they must learn to master their powers while navigating love, rivalries, and the monsters that threaten their very existence. Based off of this description alone, I could tell that the show was going a slightly darker route, and this was further elaborated upon by the creator of Winx Club, Edgy who's also involved with the new project. When asked by TV Kids about Fate the Winx Saga, Straffi mentioned that the show was going to skew older for an older audience. Quote, for those fans, the 20-year-olds who still like to watch Winx, they will hopefully find their sweet spot in the Netflix live-action version. It is edgier and darker than what they can imagine after being used to the colorful world of Winx. The target is clearly young adults. The things we had to tone down in the animation have been emphasized in the live action, the relationships, the fights, the love stories, end quote. As a 20-something young adult who grew up on the show, what they've proclaimed is their so-called target audience, I'll be the first to say that this is not even close to what I wanted from a Winx Club live-action reboot. The newfangled idea that 20-somethings are drawn to these nonsensical, dark, drama-driven stories is so weird to me, because these shows always seem like they're designed for younger, more impressionable audiences. People who've yet to reach the ages of the stories in question, who still believe that that's what life could be like, and who honestly haven't watched enough good content to question what they're getting. I know that might sound harsh or even like a diss, but it's true. When I was in high school, I didn't know diddly squat about good filmmaking or clever screenwriting or even costume design. That all came with age, experience, and access, like most things in life. When I was a teen, shows like Pretty Little Liars, The Secret Life of the American Teenager, Greek, and Gossip Girl were airing. They weren't realistic in the slightest, and if it weren't for the nostalgia I have for them, I probably wouldn't be able to enjoy them today because I know how unrealistic it is. No 18-year-old boy is becoming the editor-in-chief of a magazine, and no relationship between a teen girl and her teacher should be portrayed as cute and romantic. But at the time, I loved these shows because I didn't know any better. And that phenomenon has continued today for the younger generation with more recent edgy reboots like Riverdale, Charmed, and The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. The realism in TV has completely flown out the window, and as a result, the message and heart of the original stories are lost. It seems like the entertainment industry is making these shows just for the hell of it, quite often making it a joke in the process.
I dropped out in the 4th grade to run drugs to support my nana.
That means you haven't known the triumphs and defeats, the epic highs and lows of high school football, but you will.
Since these types of shows are usually marketed to young women, the idea that we don't deserve clever, creative, original stories is incredibly insulting. Comic fanboys are given so much consideration and respect when their content is adapted. Why aren't we? And don't give me that nonsense about, well, you're watching it, so of course they'll keep making stuff like that. They don't give us anything else. What other options do we have? I'll never understand why reboots that are based off of cartoons feel the need to be dark and gritty and realistic. Why not make something campy and fun that shows respect for the original work while modernizing it and having it hold its own? Just think about the live-action Scooby-Doo or Josie and the Pussycats film. They perfectly capture the tone of the cartoon and comic respectively, and are iconic as hell.
Now who's the damsel in distress?
Why couldn't we make the Winx reboot something like that? All of the material was there. But instead, we wound up with this. This woodsy, gothic, muted, dark academia style isn't what I associate with the Winx Club at all. When I think of Winx, I think of futurism, fantasy, glitter, fashion, humor, action, and bright colors, which is why I, and many other people who grew up watching and loving Winx Club, were particularly offended by the casting and costuming of the show so far. One of the best parts of the early Winx Club show was its diversity, with 3 of the 6 original Winx Club members being women of color. According to Strophe, the girls were each designed to resemble a famous celebrity of the time, with Britney Spears being the inspiration for Bloom, Cameron Diaz for Stella, Jennifer Lopez for Flora, Pink for Tecna, Lucy Liu for Musa, and Beyonce for Aisha. So imagine my disappointment when we saw the live-action Winx girls together for the first time and it looked like this. I have nothing against the actresses taking on the roles, but I sure as hell have a problem with the casting directors and showrunners. Yes, I'm glad that with the casting of Precious Mustafa, we don't get a whitewashed version of Aisha, especially considering how the cartoon did that to her in later seasons. But I think we should be able to praise the Winx saga for that, while also criticizing them for erasing Musa and Flora and replacing them with white women. I am so tired of TV shows putting one woman of color in their main cast and calling it a day, especially when the source material was more diverse to begin with. That is not enough representation, period. It's 2020, we deserve and should expect better. In an interview with The Guardian, Winx Saga writer Brian Young said, quote, "Nobody looks like that. It was the most important thing to me that every kid can feel like they see themselves in it. Real girls, real people. And yet, the majority of their cast is white. Do Asian women not exist in this world? No. And I haven't even gotten to the fact that Flora doesn't exist at all in the show. Instead, she's been replaced with Tara, a new character with the same powers. I guess that's gonna be their excuse for making her white? They're different characters. Or something. And there's also the fact that Tecna has been removed from the story entirely. Although at first I thought it was the other way around because I don't know about you, but this girl did not look like Musa at first glance. And let's just look at what they're wearing. The cartoon was famous for its fashion choices, with actual fashion designers helping come up with the girls' unique 2000s inspired looks. The hell is this? Not only are their clothes incredibly dated, but they're not even dressed like real teenagers. They look like 30-year-old women back in 2014, except for this outfit. This is just hideous. All in all, the costuming is utterly ridiculous, especially when you consider how many of the 2000s fashion trends from the original Winx series are back in style today. Artist Annalise Jensen did a great job recreating the girls' outfits for today, and come on, who wouldn't want to watch that show? As someone who just watched and reviewed The Craft Legacy, at first glance the two look exactly the same, even though they're inspired by 2 totally different things. Is that really what the industry has come to, that anything involving magic looks exactly the same? It's so disappointing. I see this lackluster fashion and casting as a prediction for how the entire show is going to go, missing the point entirely and forgetting what made people love Winx so much in the first place. I'll still be tuning into Fate, the Winx saga, once it's released in January, at least to see if I judge them too quickly. I know I've been harsh so far, but I actually do hope that they prove me wrong, although I doubt it'll happen. What are your thoughts on the Winx Club reboot? I hope you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you soon. Bye!